What happens when you discover the man you trust most is someone you never really knew? Claire Bennett thought she worked for a perfect CEO until one sentence shattered everything she believed. This is the story of a love born in shadows, a choice made in gunfire, and a woman who stepped into an empire knowing she might never walk out. If you're ready for a story about power, obsession, and impossible choices, stay until the end. Like this video and comment with your city so I can see how far this story reaches. Claire had worked for Ethan Moretti for 8 months before she realized she didn't know him at all. It wasn't supposed to be this way. Executive assistants were meant to understand their bosses, to anticipate needs, read moods, predict reactions. Claire prided herself on exactly that kind of precision. She knew Ethan took his coffee black at 7:15, that he hated speakerphone meetings, that he signed documents with his left hand but gestured with his right. She knew he preferred silence to small talk, and that his rare smiles never quite reached his eyes. What she didn't know was why. The Moretti Group occupied floors 30 through 42 of the glass tower on Fifth Avenue. Ethan's office sat at the very top, a sprawling space of steel and windows that overlooked Manhattan like a throne room. Claire's desk guarded the only entrance, a position that made her equal parts gatekeeper and witness to a parade of powerful people who came and went with clockwork regularity. Investors, lawyers, government officials, men in expensive suits who spoke in careful tones and left with satisfied handshakes. Everything appeared legitimate, polished, perfect. Ethan himself seemed cut from the same refined cloth. At 34, he carried himself with the kind of certainty that made rooms go quiet when he entered. Dark hair, darker eyes, features that managed to be both sharp and elegant. He dressed like old money and spoke like someone who'd never had to raise his voice to be heard. Claire had learned quickly that working for him meant matching his standards. No mistakes, no inefficiency, no questions about the parts of his schedule that didn't make sense, like the meetings marked only with initials or the calls he took behind closed doors in Italian. She told herself it wasn't her business. That changed on a Wednesday morning in October. Claire arrived at 6:30, as always, carrying her usual cup of tea and mentally running through the day's agenda. Board meeting at 9, lunch with the CFO of a pharmaceutical company at 12:30, conference call with Tokyo at 3. Standard. Manageable. She settled at her desk, pulled up Ethan's calendar, and started cross-referencing emails. The office doors opened at 7:05. Ethan walked in without his usual greeting, which wasn't unusual. He rarely wasted words before his first coffee. But something was different. The set of his shoulders, the way his jaw looked tight even in profile. Claire glanced up. "Good morning. Your 7:30 with Senator Hayworth just confirmed, and your cancel it." She blinked. "I'm sorry?" "The meeting with Hayworth. Cancel it." Ethan didn't slow down, heading straight toward his office. "Tell him something came up. Reschedule for next week." Claire's fingers hovered over her keyboard. Ethan never canceled meetings, especially not with senators. "Is everything all right?" He stopped, turned. For a second, his expression was unreadable. Then he smiled, one of those controlled, distant smiles she'd seen 100 times before. "Everything's fine, just a scheduling conflict." The door to his office closed before she could respond. Claire stared at the polished wood for a moment, then shook her head and pulled up the senator's contact information. Fine. Not her problem. The morning proceeded normally after that. Emails, phone calls, a courier delivery that required her signature. At 8:40, she knocked on Ethan's door to remind him about the board meeting. "Come in." He was standing by the windows, hands in his pockets, looking out over the city. His coffee sat untouched on the desk. "The board's gathering in the conference room," Claire said. "You have 15 minutes. "I'm aware." "Do you need anything before—" "Claire." He didn't turn around. "How long have you worked for me?" The question caught her off guard. 8 months. "And in those 8 months, have I ever given you reason to doubt my judgment?" She hesitated. "No." "Then trust that when I cancel a meeting, I have a reason." It should have sounded reassuring. Instead, it felt like a warning. Claire nodded slowly. "Of course." "Good." He finally turned, adjusting his cufflinks with practiced ease. "Let's go." The board meeting lasted 90 minutes. Claire sat in her usual spot near the door, taking notes and managing the presentation slides. Ethan was flawless, commanding the room with the kind of quiet authority that made dissent feel impossible. He answered questions with precision, deflected concerns with charm, and closed the meeting with a strategy proposal that had half the board nodding before he'd finished speaking. To anyone watching, he was exactly what he appeared to be, a brilliant CEO in complete control. But Claire couldn't shake the tension she'd felt that morning, the abrupt cancellation, the strange question about trust. By lunchtime, she'd almost convinced herself she was imagining things. Then Marcus Webb showed up. Claire didn't know Marcus well, only that he handled security for the building and occasionally coordinated with Ethan's personal protection team. He was the kind of man who blended into backgrounds, unremarkable except for the way his eyes never stopped moving. He appeared at her desk just after 1. No appointment, no warning. "I need to see Mr. Moretti." Claire glanced at her screen. "He's in a lunch meeting until 2:30. I can schedule you for now." Something in his tone made her spine straighten. "I'm sorry, but..." The door to Ethan's office opened. Ethan stood in the doorway, phone in hand, expression neutral. He looked at Marcus for exactly 2 seconds. "Give me 5 minutes." Marcus nodded and stepped back. Ethan's gaze shifted to Claire. "Hold my calls." The door closed again. Claire sat very still, staring at her screen without seeing it. Ethan's lunch meeting was supposed to run until 2:30. She'd confirmed it herself that morning. But he was clearly in his office, not at the restaurant. He'd lied. Not a miscommunication, not a change of plans. A deliberate lie. She told herself it didn't matter. Executives rearranged their schedules all the time. Maybe the lunch had been moved. Maybe it was personal. Maybe... The door opened. Marcus walked out, his face unreadable, and left without a word. Ethan appeared a moment later. "Claire, come in." It wasn't a request. She stood smoothing her skirt automatically and crossed into his office. The door clicked shut behind her. Ethan was back at the windows, hands in his pockets again. "I need you to clear my schedule for the rest of the week." Claire's mind went blank. "The entire week?" "Everything except the acquisition meeting on Friday. Move it all." That's... She mentally calculated the damage. That's 11 meetings. 2 of them are with board members. One's been on the calendar for 6 weeks. "I'm aware." "Mr. Moretti, if you cancel this many appointments without explanation, people are going to ask questions. Let them." She stared at his back, something cold settling in her stomach. "What's going on?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer, almost careful. "Do you like working here, Claire?" The question was so unexpected that she answered honestly. "Yes." "Why?" "Because..." She hesitated. "Because the work is challenging. Because you treat me like I'm competent instead of expendable. Because I'm good at what I do, and you let me prove it. And if I told you that continuing to work here meant accepting things you don't understand, would you still want to stay?" Her pulse kicked up. "What kind of things?" Ethan turned. His expression was still controlled, but something flickered behind his eyes, something that looked almost like regret. "The kind you're better off not asking about." The office suddenly felt smaller. Claire swallowed. "Are you firing me?" "No." He said it immediately, firmly. "But I'm giving you a choice." "What choice?" "You can clear my schedule, stop asking questions, and continue doing the job you're excellent at. Or..." He paused. "You can walk out of here right now with a severance package that will cover 6 months' salary and a reference that will get you hired anywhere in the city." The world tilted slightly. Claire's hands were shaking. She clasped them together. "You're serious, completely." "Why?" "Because in about 30 seconds, you're going to see something that will make you wonder who you're really working for. And I'd rather you make that decision on your own terms." Before she could respond, the door opened. 2 men walked in, both wearing suits, both moving with the kind of precision that screamed military training. One carried a slim metal briefcase. The other closed the door and stood in front of it. Claire's heart hammered. "What is this?" Ethan's gaze didn't leave hers. "Your choice, Claire. Walk away now or stay and accept that some questions don't have answers you'll like." The man with the briefcase set it on the desk and opened it. Claire couldn't see inside from where she stood, but she saw Ethan's expression shift, just slightly. Just enough to reveal something colder beneath the surface. Well, Ethan asked quietly. She should leave. Every instinct screamed at her to take the severance and go, but her feet didn't move, because underneath the fear, underneath the confusion, was something else. Curiosity, and the uncomfortable realization that she didn't want to stop working for him. "I'll clear your schedule," she heard herself say. Ethan's expression didn't change, but something in his posture relaxed. "All right," he looked at the two men. "We're done here." They left as silently as they'd arrived. Claire stood frozen, her mind racing. What was in the briefcase? "Nothing you need to worry about." "Mr. Moretti." "Ethan." She blinked. "What?" "If you're staying, call me Ethan." He moved back to his desk, his tone shifting into something more familiar, professional, controlled. "And Claire? Don't make me regret giving you that choice." It sounded like a threat, but the way he said her name felt like something else entirely. Claire nodded numbly and walked out. She spent the rest of the afternoon in a daze, mechanically rescheduling meetings and fielding increasingly irritated calls from assistants and board members. By 5 o'clock, her inbox was a disaster, and her head was pounding. Ethan left at 6 without a word. Claire stayed until 7, trying to salvage what she could of the week's agenda. When she finally shut down her computer, the office felt too quiet, too empty. She grabbed her coat and headed for the elevator. The parking garage was nearly deserted. Claire's heels echoed against concrete as she walked toward her car, keys already in hand. She was 10 feet away when she heard it. Footsteps. Not hers. Claire spun, heart lurching, and found herself face to face with a man she'd never seen before. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a jacket too heavy for October. "Claire Bennett?" Her throat closed. "Who's asking?" He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Someone who thinks you should be more careful about the company you keep." Before she could respond, another voice cut through the garage. "Step away from her!" Ethan. He appeared from behind a concrete pillar, moving with a kind of controlled violence that Claire had never seen in him before. The man in the heavy jacket took one look at Ethan's face and raised his hands. "Just delivering a message." "Consider it delivered." Ethan's voice was ice. "Now leave." The man backed away slowly, then turned and disappeared into the shadows. Claire's legs felt weak. "What the hell was that?" Ethan crossed to her in 3 strides, his gaze scanning her face. "Are you hurt?" "No, What are you doing here?" "Making sure you got to your car safely." "Why would I need—" She stopped. Her hands were shaking again. "Who was that man?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "No one you'll see again." "That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight." He took her elbow, guiding her toward her car with a gentleness that didn't match the tension in his grip. "Go home, Claire. Lock your doors. Don't open them for anyone you don't know." Fear spiked through her. "You're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared." He waited while she unlocked her car, his gaze never leaving the shadows around them. "Drive straight home. Text me when you get there." "I don't have your number." He pulled out his phone, typed quickly, and her phone buzzed in her purse. "Now you do." Claire slid into the driver's seat, her mind spinning. "Ethan, tomorrow," he said quietly. "We'll talk tomorrow." He closed the door. Claire drove home on autopilot, her hands gripping the wheel too tightly. She lived in a modest apartment in Brooklyn, 25 minutes on a good day, 40 in traffic. Tonight, it felt like hours. When she finally pulled into her building's parking lot, she sat in the car for a full minute, trying to steady her breathing. Then she pulled out her phone and texted the number Ethan had sent. "I'm home." The reply came in seconds. "Good. Get some sleep." She stared at the screen. "What's happening?" This time the pause was longer. "Something I should have kept you out of. I'm sorry." Claire read the message 3 times before locking her phone. She didn't sleep. The next morning, Claire arrived at the office at 6:30, running on coffee and stubbornness. Ethan was already there. He looked up when she walked in, surprise flickering across his face. "You came. Did you think I wouldn't?" "I thought you'd be smart enough to stay home." Claire set her bag down with more force than necessary. "I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a coward." Something shifted in his expression. Approval, maybe, or respect. "We need to talk," he said. Yes, we do. He gestured toward his office. After you. Claire walked in, her heart pounding. Ethan closed the door and leaned against his desk, arms crossed. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Claire broke the silence. I want the truth. No, you don't. Yes, I do. Ethan studied her. If I tell you the truth, you can't unhear it, and once you know, walking away becomes a lot more complicated. Then it's a good thing I'm not planning to walk away. His eyes narrowed. Why not? Because... She hesitated, searching for the right words. Because whatever you're involved in, it doesn't change the fact that you're a good boss. Because you could have lied to me yesterday, and you didn't. And because that man in the garage wasn't there by accident, which means you knew I might be in danger, and you showed up anyway. Ethan was quiet. Then, slowly, he smiled. A real smile this time, not the careful mask he wore in meetings. You're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. He laughed, low and rough. All right, Claire. You want the truth? Here it is. He pushed off the desk and walked to the windows. The Moretti Group is legitimate. Everything we do publicly, the investments, the acquisitions, the board meetings, it's all legal. But it's not the whole picture. Claire's pulse kicked up. What's the rest? My family has been in business for 3 generations. We started in shipping, cargo, import-export. He paused. Some of that cargo wasn't exactly sanctioned by customs. Her stomach dropped. I'm saying that the foundation of this company was built on moving things people weren't supposed to move. And while we've spent the last 20 years cleaning up our image, there are still parts of the business that exist in the gray areas. Offshore accounts, shell companies, deals that don't make it into quarterly reports. Claire sank into the chair behind her. You run a criminal empire. I run a business. Some of it just happens to be illegal. She couldn't find the words. How am I supposed to work for you knowing this? The same way you worked for me yesterday, by doing your job and not asking questions about the parts that don't concern you. But they do concern me now. That man last night was a message. Ethan turned to face her. There are people who don't appreciate some of the changes I've been making. Rival organizations, old associates who think I've gone soft. They saw you with me, and they decided you were a vulnerability. So I'm a target. Not anymore. How can you be sure? Because I made it very clear what would happen if anyone touched you. The certainty in his voice sent a chill down her spine. Claire stood, her legs unsteady. I should go to the police. You could? Ethan didn't move. But you won't. Why not? Because you're smart enough to know that going to the police puts a bigger target on your back. And because... He took a step closer. You don't want to. Her breath caught. You don't know what I want, don't I? He was close enough now that she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. You've had a dozen chances to walk away, Claire. You didn't take any of them. So either you're lying to yourself about who you are, or you're finally being honest about what you want. And what do I want? The same thing I do. His voice dropped. To stop pretending. The air between them felt electric. Claire's heart was racing. This is insane. Yes. I should quit. Probably. I'm not going to. I know. He lifted his hand slowly and brushed a strand of hair away from her face. The touch was light, careful, like he was giving her every opportunity to pull away. She didn't. If you stay, Ethan said quietly, things are going to change between us. How? I don't know yet, but I'm not good at keeping my distance from things I want. Claire's breath hitched. And you want? You. He said it simply, like it was obvious. I've wanted you since the day you told a board member to stop interrupting me because his commentary was wasting everyone's time. Despite everything, she almost laughed. That was 3 months ago. I know. You didn't say anything. Because you worked for me, because it was inappropriate, because I thought I could ignore it. His thumb traced the line of her jaw. I was wrong. Claire should step back, should put distance between them, should do any number of sensible things. Instead, she heard herself ask, what happens now? That depends on you. I don't know what I'm doing. Neither do I. His mouth curved slightly. But I'd like to find out. He leaned in, slowly enough that she could stop him. She didn't. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, testing. Then Claire's hands fisted in his shirt, and Ethan made a rough sound in the back of his throat and pulled her closer. It wasn't careful, wasn't controlled. It was real. When they finally broke apart, Claire's head was spinning. Ethan rested his forehead against hers, his breathing unsteady. Tell me this wasn't a mistake. I don't know yet. Honest. He smiled against her hair. I can work with honest. Claire pulled back just enough to look at him. What now? Now, he straightened, reluctantly letting her go. Now you go back to your desk and pretend this didn't happen. At least until I figure out how to keep you safe. I don't need you to protect me. Yes, you do. His expression sobered. The people I deal with don't play fair, Claire. And if they think you matter to me, they'll use that. So until I handle the current situation, we keep this between us. For how long? A few days, maybe a week. And then? Then we stop pretending. Claire nodded slowly. She should be terrified, should be running for the door, but all she felt was a strange sense of inevitability, like she'd been walking toward this moment since the day she'd taken the job. Okay, she said. Ethan's eyes searched hers. Okay? 1 week. But after that, I want answers. Real ones. Deal. She turned toward the door, then paused. Ethan? Yes? For the record, I don't think you've gone soft. He laughed, a real laugh, surprised and genuine. Good to know. Claire walked out, her heart still racing. She had no idea what she'd just agreed to. But for the first time in 8 months, she felt like she was finally seeing the truth. And whatever happened next, she wasn't backing down. The week that followed felt like living in 2 different worlds at once. During the day, Claire maintained the facade. She answered phones, managed schedules, coordinated meetings with the same efficiency she'd always shown. To anyone watching, nothing had changed. She was still the poised executive assistant who kept Ethan Moretti's professional life running smoothly. But underneath, everything was different. She noticed things now, details that had always been there but had never registered as significant. The way certain calls always came through on Ethan's personal line, never the office system. How Marcus Webb appeared at irregular intervals, always when Ethan's calendar showed him free. The deliveries that came in unmarked packages, signed for by security, and brought directly to Ethan's office without passing through her desk. And she noticed Ethan himself differently. The control she'd once admired now looked like restraint. The careful distance he maintained in meetings felt deliberate rather than professional. When he spoke to investors or board members, she could see the performance of it. The charm deployed like a weapon, the authority wielded with surgical precision. He was good at pretending to be someone he wasn't. She was starting to wonder if she was getting good at it too. On Tuesday afternoon, 3 days after their conversation, Ethan emerged from his office just after 2. I need you to come with me, he said. Claire looked up from her computer. Where? A meeting. Bring your tablet. She grabbed her things and followed him to the elevator. They rode down in silence, surrounded by other employees heading to lunch or returning from errands. Ethan stood with his hands in his pockets, his expression unreadable. When they reached the parking garage, he led her not to his usual sedan but to a different car, a black SUV with tinted windows and a driver she didn't recognize. Claire hesitated. What kind of meeting is this? The kind where you take notes and don't ask questions. He held the door open for her. Trust me. She climbed in. The driver pulled out without a word, navigating through midtown traffic with practiced ease. Claire watched the building slide past, her nerves humming. Where are we going? Downtown. Ethan didn't look at her. A restaurant. We're meeting someone who wants to discuss a business proposition. What kind of proposition? The kind you're better off not understanding completely. He finally turned to face her. But I need you there because it needs to look legitimate, like a normal business lunch. So I'm a prop. Your insurance. If this meeting goes wrong, having you there keeps it from getting ugly. Claire's stomach tightened. How reassuring. I won't let anything happen to you. You keep saying that, but you're the one putting me in situations where something could happen. Ethan's jaw tightened. I know. They didn't speak again until the car stopped in front of an upscale Italian restaurant in Tribeca, the kind of place that didn't advertise, where reservations required a membership, and the waitstaff knew better than to acknowledge regular customers by name. Inside, they were led to a private dining room in the back. Two men were already seated at the table. The older one stood when they entered, mid-50s, expensive suit, silver hair combed back from a face that looked like it had seen too many hard years. The younger man stayed seated, watching them with dark eyes that reminded Claire of a predator assessing prey. "Ethan," the older man extended his hand. "Good to see you." "Vincent." Ethan shook it, his expression neutral. "This is my assistant, Claire Bennett. She'll be taking notes." Vincent's gaze slid to Claire with an assessment that made her skin crawl. "Pleasure." She forced a smile. "Likewise." They sat. A waiter appeared immediately, pouring water and reciting specials no one listened to. Ethan ordered for both of them without asking what Claire wanted. When the waiter left, Vincent leaned back in his chair. "So, let's talk about the Brooklyn shipment." Ethan's expression didn't change. "What about it?" "Word is you're shutting it down." "I'm restructuring operations. Brooklyn's becoming too visible." "Visible to who? The feds?" "To everyone. I don't need that kind of attention." Vincent exchanged a glance with the younger man. "Your father wouldn't have worried about attention." "My father's been dead for 6 years," Ethan said evenly, "and his approach to business is part of what got him killed." The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Claire kept her eyes on her tablet, fingers poised over the keyboard, heart hammering. She had no idea what to type. Nothing being said sounded like it belonged in legitimate business notes. "Careful, Ethan." Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. "Disrespecting the dead is bad luck." "I'm not disrespecting him. I'm learning from his mistakes." "By going soft?" "By being smart." The younger man finally spoke, his voice rough. "Smart doesn't pay the bills. The Brooklyn route moves $20 million a year. You shut it down, that money goes somewhere else." "Then it goes somewhere else." Ethan picked up his water glass. "I'm not interested in operations that put unnecessary targets on my back." Vincent leaned forward. "This isn't a request, Moretti. We have agreements, contracts. You can't just walk away because you've decided to play businessman." "I'm not walking away from anything. I'm reorganizing. If you can't adapt, that's not my problem." "It will be if you keep pushing." The threat hung in the air. Claire's hand had gone still on the tablet. She could feel the tension radiating from Ethan, even though his posture remained relaxed. "Are you threatening me, Vincent? I'm reminding you that you're not the only player in this city, and that good faith goes both ways." Ethan set down his glass. "Then let me remind you of something. My family built half the infrastructure you rely on. The shipping routes, the contacts, the protection. You want to pull out? Fine. But don't pretend you'll last 6 months without our network." Vincent's smile vanished. "You arrogant—" "Careful." Ethan's voice dropped to something colder. "We're in public. Let's keep this civil." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Vincent sat back, his expression calculating. "You've changed, Ethan. Ever since you took over." "I grew up." "You got weak." "Believe what you want." The food arrived, breaking the standoff. They ate in tense silence, the meal a performance of normalcy that fooled no one. Claire managed 3 bites before her appetite disappeared completely. When the plates were cleared, Vincent stood. "Think about what I said. You've got until the end of the month to reconsider." "I won't." Vincent's gaze flicked to Claire. "Pretty thing, your assistant. Must be nice having someone so dedicated." Every muscle in Ethan's body went rigid. Claire felt ice slide down her spine. "Don't," Ethan said quietly. "Don't what? I'm just making conversation." "No. You're making a mistake." Ethan stood slowly. "And if you make another one, we're going to have a very different kind of meeting." Vincent held his gaze for a beat, then smiled. "Understood. No harm meant." He and his associate left without another word. Claire didn't move until she heard the outer door close. Then she exhaled shakily. "What just happened?" "A negotiation." Ethan pulled out his phone, typed something rapidly. "Let's go." They walked out through the kitchen exit, not the main dining room. The SUV was already waiting in the alley behind the restaurant. Once inside, Claire finally let herself react. "That man threatened me." I know. And you just, what? Threatened him back? Yes. Is that supposed to make me feel better? Ethan turned to look at her, his expression hard. No. It's supposed to keep you alive. The bluntness of it knocked the air from her lungs. She stared at him. This is insane. I shouldn't be anywhere near this. You're right. Then why did you bring me? Because Vincent needed to see that I have something to lose now, something worth protecting. It changes the equation. Claire felt like she'd been punched. So I really was just a prop. No. Ethan's hand found hers, his grip firm. You were a message. There's a difference. I don't see one. The difference is that the message was true. I do have something to lose, and I will protect it. Her pulse kicked up. Ethan, 1 week, he said quietly. That's what I promised you. 4 more days, and then we stop hiding this. But until then, I need you to trust me. Trust you? You just used me as a pawn in some kind of criminal chess game. Yes, and I'd do it again if it meant keeping you safe. He lifted her hand to his lips, the gesture so unexpected that she forgot to breathe. I'm not a good man, Claire. I've never pretended to be. But I'm good at keeping what's mine. I'm not yours. Not yet. The certainty in his voice should have terrified her. Instead, it sent heat curling through her chest. She pulled her hand away, needing distance. Take me back to the office. Claire, please. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. All right. They didn't speak for the rest of the drive. When they arrived back at the tower, Claire went straight to her desk and buried herself in work. Emails, reports, anything to stop thinking about Vincent's smile or the way Ethan had looked ready to kill him with his bare hands. At 6, Ethan stopped by her desk on his way out. Go home, he said. I have work to finish. It can wait. I'm fine. You're shaking. She looked down. Her hands were trembling against the keyboard. Ethan crouched beside her chair, his voice gentler. Claire, go home. Lock your door. I'll have someone watching your building tonight. I don't need a babysitter. Humor me. She wanted to argue, but she was exhausted and the adrenaline from the afternoon was starting to crash. Fine. He stood. Text me when you get home. I'm not a child. I know, text me anyway. He left before she could respond. Claire packed up her things and headed home, her mind spinning. When she reached her apartment, she locked the door, dropped her bag, and fell onto the couch. Her phone buzzed. Are you home? She stared at the message, torn between irritation and something that felt dangerously close to affection. Yes. Good. Get some rest. Ethan? Yes? She hesitated, fingers hovering over the keyboard. There were 100 things she wanted to say, questions she needed answers to, fears she couldn't voice. Instead, she typed, "Thank you for today." The reply came quickly. "Don't thank me, I put you in danger. But you got me out." "That's not the same thing." She smiled despite herself. "Go to sleep, Claire. You first." "Stubborn woman, you like it." There was a pause, then, "Yes, I do." Claire set the phone down, her heart doing something complicated in her chest. She was falling for a criminal, and the worst part was she didn't want to stop. The next 3 days passed in a blur of normalcy and tension. Claire kept up appearances at work, managing Ethan's schedule with the same precision as always. But the undercurrent had changed. Every glance felt weighted. Every accidental touch sent electricity down her spine. On Friday evening, Ethan asked her to stay late to prepare documents for the acquisition meeting the next morning. By 8, the office was empty except for the two of them. Claire was printing the final copies when Ethan appeared in the doorway of the supply room. Almost done? 5 more minutes. He leaned against the frame, watching her. You've been avoiding me. I've been working. You've been hiding behind work. There's a difference. Claire didn't look at him. Maybe I need the distance. Or maybe you're scared of what happens when the week is over. That made her pause. Should I be? Probably. She finally met his eyes. You're not helping. I'm being honest. He pushed off the doorframe and crossed to her. Tomorrow's Saturday. No office. No pretending. What are you saying? I'm saying that I want to take you to dinner, somewhere we don't have to act like this is just professional. Claire's breath caught. Ethan, One dinner, Claire, no business, no interruptions, just us. That's a terrible idea. I know. People could see us. Let them. Your world is dangerous. Yes. I could get hurt. Not if I have anything to say about it. He cupped her face gently, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. I know I'm asking too much. I know you deserve better than this, but I'm asking anyway. She should say no, should put up boundaries, should do the smart thing. Instead, she heard herself whisper, "Where?" Relief flickered across his face. "My place. I'll cook." "You cook?" "Don't sound so surprised. I have hidden talents." Despite everything, she laughed. "This is crazy." "Completely. I'm going to regret this." "Maybe." He leaned in, his lips brushing her temple. "But you're going to say yes anyway." He was right. Claire closed her eyes. "What time?" 7. I'll send a car. I can drive myself. Humor me. She pulled back just enough to look at him. You say that a lot. You make me nervous. I make you nervous? You run a criminal empire. And you make me feel like a kid trying to ask someone to prom. He smiled, and it transformed his face, made him look younger, less guarded. It's terrifying. Something warm bloomed in Claire's chest. Okay, she said softly. 7 o'clock. Okay. He kissed her then, slow and deep, like they had all the time in the world. When he finally pulled away, Claire's knees were weak. Finish the copies, Ethan murmured against her hair. Then go home and rest. Tomorrow's going to be interesting. Is that a promise or a threat? Both. He left her standing there, her heart racing and her resolve completely shattered. The next evening, Claire spent an hour trying to decide what to wear. Too formal felt wrong. Too casual felt dismissive. She finally settled on a simple black dress, elegant but not trying too hard, and pulled her hair into a loose twist. The car arrived at 6:45. The driver took her to the Upper East Side, stopping in front of a restored brownstone that looked like something out of a magazine. Expensive. Private. The kind of place that whispered old money even though Claire knew exactly where Ethan's fortune had come from. She climbed the steps and rang the bell. Ethan answered immediately, wearing dark jeans and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up. No tie. No armor. He looked at her for a long moment, his expression unguarded. You're beautiful. Heat flooded her cheeks. You clean up pretty well yourself. He smiled and stepped aside. Come in. The interior was exactly what she'd expected. Hardwood floors, high ceilings, art that probably cost more than her annual salary. But it also felt lived in. Books stacked on tables, a jacket thrown over a chair. Evidence of a real person, not just a carefully curated image. This is nice, Claire said. Thank you. Wine? Please. He led her to the kitchen, which was all marble and stainless steel, but somehow still felt warm. Something was simmering on the stove, filling the air with the scent of garlic and herbs. Ethan poured 2 glasses of red and handed her one. To terrible ideas, he said. Claire clinked her glass against his, and the people stupid enough to follow through on them. They drank. The dinner was surprisingly good. Pasta with a sauce Ethan claimed his grandmother had taught him to make. Salad, bread that tasted homemade. They talked about everything except work, favorite books, childhood memories, the kind of getting-to-know-you conversation that felt both normal and surreal given the circumstances. Claire learned that Ethan had wanted to be an architect before his father died, that he played piano but hadn't touched one in years, that he took his coffee black because his mother had always said sugar was a weakness. That's bleak, Claire said. That's my family. Ethan refilled their wine glasses. They had very specific ideas about strength. Do you agree with them? I used to. Now I think strength is more complicated than they made it sound. How so? He was quiet for a moment, his gaze distant. My father believed that showing emotion was weakness, that caring about people made you vulnerable. He ran the business like a machine, efficient, ruthless, completely detached. And you don't? I can't. I've tried. He looked at her. Turns out I'm not as good at detachment as he was. Claire's heart squeezed. Is that why you're trying to change things? The restructuring? Part of it. The other part is that I'm tired of looking over my shoulder, of wondering when the next Vincent is going to show up with demands or threats. I want to build something that lasts without constantly having to defend it. That's not going soft. That's being smart. Tell that to the old guard. The old guard can go to hell. Ethan laughed, surprised and genuine. I like you, Claire Bennett. I like you too, against my better judgment. I'll take it. They moved to the living room after dinner, settling on the couch with their wine. The conversation flowed easily now, the earlier tension replaced by something comfortable. Claire kicked off her heels and tucked her feet under her. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why me? Ethan raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean, you could have anyone, someone from your world who understands this life. Why risk everything for someone who's completely out of her depth? He set down his wine glass and turned to face her fully. Because you see me, he said simply. Not the CEO, not the Moretti name, not the reputation. You see the person underneath all of that, and you don't run. I should. But you don't. His hand found hers, fingers lacing together. That's why. Claire's throat tightened. This is going to get complicated. It already is. I mean, really complicated. People are going to ask questions. Your business associates, my friends, everyone. Let them ask. Ethan, I'm done hiding, Claire. I promised you 1 week, and it's been 1 week. So I'm asking you now, with no pretense and no safety net, do you want this? Us? Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it. She thought about every reason this was a bad idea. The danger, the secrets, the impossibility of a normal life. Then she thought about the way Ethan looked at her, the way he made her feel seen, the way being with him felt like standing on the edge of something terrifying and exhilarating at once. Yes, she whispered. Relief and something fiercer flooded Ethan's expression. He pulled her closer, one hand sliding into her hair. Say it again. Yes, I want this. He kissed her like he had been holding back for months, hungry and desperate and achingly tender all at once. Claire melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, every nerve ending alive. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. You're going to drive me insane, he murmured. Good. You deserve it. He laughed, the sound rough and warm. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the city lights filtering through the windows. For the first time since this had all started, Claire felt something close to peace. Whatever came next, they'd face it together, even if it destroyed them both. Claire woke up Sunday morning in Ethan's bed with sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and his arm draped across her waist. For a moment, she just lay there, taking inventory. Her dress from the night before was draped over a chair. Her shoes sat neatly by the door, though she didn't remember taking them off that carefully. The sheets smelled like expensive detergent and something distinctly Ethan. She should feel panicked, guilty. Something other than the warm contentment currently pooling in her chest. Instead, she felt oddly calm. Ethan stirred behind her, his hand tightening slightly before he went still again. Claire could tell by his breathing that he was awake. Morning, she said quietly. Morning. His voice was rough with sleep. How do you feel? Like I made a series of questionable decisions. Regret? She thought about it. No. Good. He pressed a kiss to her shoulder. Because I'm not letting you leave. Ever? At least not before breakfast. Claire smiled despite herself. What's for breakfast? Whatever you want. I make excellent terrible coffee and mediocre eggs. Sounds perfect. They stayed in bed for another 20 minutes, talking about nothing important. It felt dangerously normal, like they were just two people enjoying a lazy Sunday instead of a criminal and the woman crazy enough to fall for him. Eventually, they made their way to the kitchen. Ethan, true to his word, produced coffee that was too strong and eggs that were slightly overdone. Claire ate every bite. So what happens now? She asked, setting down her fork. Ethan leaned back in his chair. What do you want to happen? I asked first. Fair enough. He was quiet for a moment. I want you to understand what you're getting into, not the sanitized version, the real thing. Meaning? Meaning I want you to meet my family. Claire nearly choked on her coffee. Your family? My mother, my sister, a few others. He watched her reaction carefully. They need to know about you, and you need to see what this life actually looks like. When? Today. Today. Her voice went up an octave. Ethan, I'm not asking you to impress them. I'm asking you to see them, to understand where I come from. He reached across the table, taking her hand. After that, if you want to walk away, I'll let you. No argument, no pressure. Claire's heart was racing. And if I don't walk away? Then we figure out what comes next, together. She should say no, should take the easy out. But curiosity won. Okay, she said, let's do it. 2 hours later, they were in Ethan's car heading toward Long Island. Claire had borrowed a blouse and slacks from what Ethan claimed was a guest room, but clearly held women's clothes that fit her too well for comfort. She didn't ask. Tell me about your family, she said as they crossed the bridge. What do you want to know? Start with your mother. Ethan's expression shifted, something between affection and wariness. Lucia Moretti, 72 years old, sharp as a knife. She ran half the business after my father died until I was old enough to take over. She was involved? She still is. Keeps the books, manages certain relationships. She knows everything. And your sister? Isabella. She's 30. Runs a gallery in Soho, completely legitimate before you ask. She wanted nothing to do with the family business. I respect that. Does she know about us? Not yet, but she will after today. Claire's stomach nodded. What if they hate me? They won't. You can't know that. I know my mother. She'll give you a hard time because that's what she does. But if I tell her you matter to me, she'll accept it. Just like that? She trusts my judgment, usually. The house was a sprawling estate set back from the road, surrounded by manicured gardens and a security gate that required 3 separate codes to open. Claire tried not to think about what that level of security meant. Inside, the house was elegant but lived in. Family photos lined the walls. The smell of something cooking drifted from the kitchen. A woman appeared in the doorway, petite, silver-haired, wearing an apron and an expression that could have cut glass. Ethan. Her voice was accented, warm but assessing. You're late. Traffic. He kissed her cheek. Mama, this is Claire Bennett. Claire? My mother. Lucia. Lucia's gaze swept over Claire with the efficiency of a general inspecting troops. So, you're the one who's been distracting my son. Claire's throat went dry. Yes, I suppose I am. She works for you? She did, Ethan said. Things have changed. I can see that. Lucia's expression didn't soften, but something flickered in her eyes. Curiosity, maybe. Come, sit. We eat in 10 minutes. She disappeared back toward the kitchen before Claire could respond. That went well, Claire whispered. Ethan smiled. She likes you. How can you possibly tell? She didn't throw you out. Trust me, that's a win. They moved into the dining room where a long table was already set for 6. A younger woman was arranging flowers in the center, dark-haired, beautiful, with the same sharp eyes as Ethan. Bella, Ethan said. Isabella looked up and grinned. Finally, I've been dying to meet the woman who got you to cancel a board meeting. Claire blinked. I didn't. You did, 3 weeks ago. He rescheduled everything because he wanted to make sure you got home safely. Isabella crossed to them, extending a hand. Isabella Moretti. And before you ask, yes, I know what my family does, and no, I don't participate. But I still show up for Sunday dinners. Claire shook her hand, feeling slightly overwhelmed. Claire Bennett. I know, he talks about you constantly. I do not, Ethan said. You absolutely do. Last week you spent 20 minutes explaining how efficiently she reorganized your filing system. It was adorable and deeply concerning. Despite her nerves, Claire laughed. Over the next few minutes, 3 more people arrived. Marcus Webb, looking uncomfortable in casual clothes, an older man Ethan introduced as his Uncle Sal, and a younger guy, maybe mid-20s, who apparently handled logistics. Dinner was loud, chaotic, and surprisingly normal. They argued about politics, teased each other mercilessly, and demolished Lucia's cooking with the enthusiasm of people who genuinely enjoyed being together. Claire found herself relaxing despite the strangeness of the situation. Halfway through the meal, Lucia turned to her. So, Claire, What do you think of my son? The table went quiet. Claire met Lucia's gaze. I think he's complicated. That's diplomatic. I think he's trying to be better than what he inherited. Lucia's expression shifted, something like approval. And you believe that's possible? I do. Why? Because he cares enough to try. That counts for something. Lucia studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Good answer. The conversation resumed. After dinner, Ethan pulled Claire aside while the others moved to the living room. You did well, he said. Your mother terrifies me. She terrifies everyone. It's her gift. He brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Thank you for coming. Thank you for asking. They rejoined the group, settling into the comfortable chaos of family. Claire watched Ethan interact with his mother and sister, saw the easy affection beneath the careful control. This was the part of him the world never saw. The man who teased his sister about her terrible taste in men and let his mother boss him around without argument. It made him real in a way that scared her more than anything else. Around 8, Lucia announced it was time for dessert. Claire followed Isabella into the kitchen to help. So, Isabella said, pulling plates from the cabinet, you and my brother. Is this where you warn me off? Should I? Claire considered. Probably. Isabella laughed. At least you're honest. She paused, her expression turning serious. Look, I won't pretend to understand why you're here or what you see in this life. But I've known Ethan his whole life, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. So whatever this is, it matters to him. That doesn't mean it's a good idea. No, but it means he'll protect you with everything he has, for what that's worth. And if that's not enough, Isabella met her eyes, then you walk away before it destroys both of you. The words settled like lead in Claire's stomach. They brought out dessert, tiramisu that Lucia claimed was too dry, but everyone devoured anyway. The evening wound down slowly, with promises to do this again, and the kind of casual affection that made Claire ache for something she hadn't realized she was missing. On the drive back to the city, she was quiet. Ethan glanced at her. What are you thinking? That your family is wonderful. But it makes this harder, seeing you with them, seeing what you're trying to protect. Does it change anything? Claire watched the lights of the city appear in the distance. I don't know yet. They didn't go back to Ethan's place. Instead, he drove her to her apartment, walking her to the door like a normal date ending a normal evening. Can I see you tomorrow? He asked. At work? After work? Dinner? Or just coffee? Whatever you want. Claire wanted to say yes, but Isabella's words kept echoing in her head. I need a day to think, she said. Disappointment flickered across his face, but he nodded. Okay, take whatever time you need. Ethan. It's fine, Claire. I'm asking you to turn your life upside down. You're allowed to think about it. He kissed her forehead and left. Inside her apartment, Claire collapsed on the couch and stared at the ceiling. She was in love with him. The realization hit like a freight train. Somewhere between the terrifying dinner with Vincent and meeting Lucia's sharp-eyed assessment, she'd fallen completely. And that made everything infinitely more complicated. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Claire got to the office early, steeling herself for the inevitable awkwardness. But when Ethan arrived at 7, he was perfectly professional. Good morning. Morning. The Reynolds contract needs your review before the 10 o'clock meeting. I'll handle it. It was like the weekend had never happened, except for the way his gaze lingered a second too long when she handed him his coffee. The day proceeded normally until just after lunch, when Marcus appeared at Claire's desk. Mr. Moretti needs to see you, now. The urgency in his tone made her stomach drop. She followed him into Ethan's office. The door closed behind her. Ethan was standing by the windows, his posture rigid. When he turned, his expression was carefully blank. We have a problem. What kind of problem? Vincent didn't take our meeting well. He's been making noise, talking to other families, trying to undermine my position. Claire's pulse quickened. What does that mean? It means things are about to get messy, and I need you somewhere safe until I handle it. Safe where? Out of the city. I have a house upstate, private, secure. You want me to leave. I want you protected. For how long? I don't know, a few days, maybe a week. Claire shook her head. No? Ethan blinked. No? I'm not running away and hiding while you deal with this alone. Claire, this isn't a negotiation. You're right, it's not. She crossed to him, anger and fear warring in her chest. You asked me to be in this with you. That means I don't disappear the second it gets dangerous. It's already dangerous. Then we handle it together. You don't understand what these people are capable of. Then explain it to me. Her voice rose. Stop trying to protect me from reality and just tell me the truth. Ethan ran a hand through his hair, frustration radiating from him. Vincent controls half the shipping on the East Coast. If he decides I'm a liability, he'll come after me, and anyone close to me becomes a target. So you're saying I'm already a target? Yes. Then hiding me doesn't fix anything. It just puts me somewhere isolated where you can't reach me if something goes wrong. He stared at her. You're not going to back down on this, are you? No. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Ethan's shoulders sagged slightly. You're going to give me a heart attack. Probably. If you stay, you follow my security protocols. No arguments. What protocols? Marcus assigns you a driver. You don't go anywhere alone. You tell me where you are at all times. It chafed against every independent instinct she had. But she nodded. Okay. And if I say you need to leave, you leave. No questions. Within reason. Claire. Within reason, Ethan. I'm not agreeing to blind obedience. His jaw tightened, but he nodded. Fine. Within reason. She moved closer, close enough to see the worry in his eyes. We're going to be okay. You can't know that. Neither can you. But I'm choosing to believe it anyway. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. You're the bravest person I've ever met, he murmured against her hair. Or the stupidest. Both, probably. They stayed like that for a minute, drawing strength from each other. Then Marcus knocked on the door. Sir, we have movement. Ethan released Claire immediately, his expression shifting back to controlled. What movement? Marcus entered, his face grim. Two of Vincent's guys just pulled up outside. They're asking to speak with you. How many? Just two, but there's a car circling the block. Ethan's jaw clenched. Tell them I'll meet them in the lobby. Public space. Witnesses. Sir, do it. Marcus left. Claire's heart was pounding. What's happening? Vincent's making a move, testing boundaries. Ethan headed for the door, then paused. Stay here. Lock the door after I leave. Don't open it for anyone except Marcus or me. Ethan, please, Claire. Just this once, don't argue. She wanted to, but the fear in his eyes stopped her. Be careful. Always. He left. Claire locked the door and pressed her ear against it, listening. She could hear the elevator ding, voices in the hallway. Then silence. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Her phone buzzed. It's handled. Stay put. She exhaled shakily. Another 20 minutes crawled by before the door handle turned. Claire jumped back, her pulse spiking. It's me, Ethan called through the door. She unlocked it. He walked in, looking tense but unharmed. We need to move. Move where? Somewhere they can't find you while I deal with this. I thought we agreed. That was before they showed up at my building. Before they made it clear they know exactly where to find you. He gripped her shoulders. Claire, they came here to send a message, and the message was that they can reach you anytime they want. I can't protect you here. Fear clawed at her throat. What did they say? That Vincent wants to renegotiate, and that he hopes I haven't gotten too attached to my assistant. The room tilted. They threatened me directly. Yes, Claire's hands were shaking. Okay, where do we go? Upstate, the house I mentioned. It's isolated, off the grid. They won't find it. When? Now. I need to pack. I'll have someone get your things. Right now I need you in a car and out of Manhattan. Everything was moving too fast, but Claire could see the fear beneath Ethan's control, and that scared her more than anything. All right. Marcus drove them personally, taking back roads out of the city. Claire watched the buildings give way to trees, her mind spinning. How long will we be there? She asked. Until it's safe, Ethan said. A few days, maybe longer. And you're coming with me? I have to handle things in the city, but I'll visit, and I'll have security with you at all times. So I'm going into hiding while you walk into danger. I'm walking into negotiations. There's a difference. Is there? He didn't answer. The house was exactly as advertised, isolated, surrounded by woods, with security cameras covering every angle. Inside, it was comfortable but sparse, a place designed for function, not comfort. Ethan walked through with her, pointing out exits and secure rooms. The panic room is behind the bookshelf, fingerprint access only. I programmed yours in. If anything happens, you go there and call me. This is insane. This is necessary. He turned to face her. I need you to promise me you'll stay here until I say it's safe. Ethan, promise me, Claire. She saw the desperation in his eyes and felt her resistance crumble. I promise. Thank you. He kissed her, hard and desperate, like he was memorizing the feel of her. When he pulled away, his expression was raw. I will fix this, whatever it takes. Just come back. I will. He left with Marcus, leaving Claire alone with two security guards who introduced themselves as Jensen and Torres. She wandered through the house, feeling like a prisoner in a gilded cage. Her phone buzzed. I'm sorry. Claire stared at the message, tears burning her eyes. Just stay safe. You too. She sat down on the couch and waited for a danger she couldn't see to either pass or consume everything she'd just found. The first day at the safe house crawled by with agonizing slowness. Claire tried to read, tried to watch television, tried to do anything that would stop her from checking her phone every 5 minutes for updates that didn't come. Jensen and Torres rotated shifts, one always stationed by the door, while the other monitored the security feeds. They were professional, polite, and completely unwilling to engage in conversation beyond the bare necessities. By evening, Claire was ready to climb the walls. Her phone finally buzzed at 7. How are you holding up? Claire almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Bored out of my mind. Also terrified. You? Busy. Meeting with some associates tomorrow. Should have answers soon. What kind of answers? The kind that determine whether Vincent backs down or escalates. Her stomach twisted. Be careful. Always. Get some rest. Rest felt impossible, but she tried anyway. The bedroom was comfortable enough, but every sound made her jolt awake. Branches against windows, the house settling, footsteps in the hallway that turned out to be Torres doing rounds. By 3 in the morning, she gave up and went downstairs. Jensen was in the kitchen, making coffee. He looked up when she entered. Can't sleep? Not even close. He poured a second cup without asking and slid it across the counter. It gets easier. You've done this before? Babysitting someone in hiding? A few times. Usually it's boring. Occasionally it's not. Which do you think this will be? Jensen was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I think Mr. Moretti will handle it before it gets that far. He's good at what he does. And if he's not, then Torres and I are very good at our jobs too. It should have been reassuring. Instead, it just reminded her how real the danger was. She took her coffee to the living room and curled up on the couch, watching the sun rise through the trees. Her phone rang at 8:30. Ethan. Morning, she said. How did you sleep? I didn't. You? Same. He sounded exhausted. I'm heading into the meeting in an hour. I wanted to hear your voice before I go. Her throat tightened. What's going to happen? Vincent and I are going to have a conversation about boundaries and consequences. It'll either end with an agreement or a declaration of war. That's not reassuring. I know, but I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. I do trust you. I just don't trust Vincent. Smart woman. She heard voices in the background, muffled. I have to go. I'll call you when it's done. Ethan? Yeah? Come back to me. His voice softened. Nothing could stop me. The line went dead. Claire sat with the phone pressed to her chest, trying to breathe through the fear. The morning dragged into afternoon with no word. She paced, made lunch she couldn't eat, checked the security monitors with Torres until he gently suggested she was making herself crazy. At 2:15, her phone rang again. Unknown number. Claire's heart stopped. She answered. Hello? Claire Bennett? A woman's voice, professional and cold. Who is this? A friend of Ethan's. I'm calling to let you know he's been delayed. Every instinct screamed warning. Delayed how? The meeting ran long. He asked me to let you know he's fine and will call when he can. Put him on the phone. He's currently occupied. Put him on the phone right now or I'm hanging up. A pause, then a different voice, male, amused. Feisty, I like that. Claire's blood ran cold. Who are you? Someone who thinks Ethan needs a reminder about what's important. You must be very special for him to risk so much. Where is he? Safe. For now. As long as he makes the right choice. The line went dead. Claire's hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped the phone. She ran to find Torres. Something's wrong. Someone just called. They have Ethan. Torres's expression went hard. What exactly did they say? She repeated the conversation word for word. Torres immediately pulled out his phone, dialing rapidly. It's Torres. We have a situation. Someone contacted Ms. Bennett claiming Moretti's being held. No, unknown number. Understood. He hung up and looked at Claire. We're going into lockdown. Full protocol. You stay in the panic room until we get the all clear. I'm not hiding while... This isn't a request. His tone left no room for argument. If they have Mr. Moretti, that means they're looking for leverage. You are that leverage. The best thing you can do for him is stay out of their reach. The logic was sound, but it felt like cowardice. Jensen appeared already armed. Perimeter's clear, no movement on the cameras. Lock it down anyway. Torres turned back to Claire. Come on, now! She followed him to the panic room, her mind racing. The space was small but well equipped. Reinforced walls, its own ventilation system, monitors showing every angle of the property. You have food, water, communications, Torres said, pointing to various supplies. Door locks from the inside, and don't open it for anyone except Mr. Moretti or Marcus. Not even us. Understood? What if something happens to you? Then you call the number programmed into that phone on the desk. Help will come. But you do not leave this room. Claire nodded numbly. Torres stepped out, and the heavy door sealed behind him with a pneumatic hiss. Silence. She was alone with her thoughts and a bank of monitors showing empty woods and an apparently peaceful house. Minutes stretched into an hour. Then 2. Her phone, her regular phone, not the emergency one, buzzed. Don't believe everything you hear. Ethan. Relief flooded through her so intensely she felt lightheaded. Someone called. Said they had you. Scare tactic. I'm fine. Meeting's still going. Are you sure? They sounded, I'm sure. Vincent's playing games, trying to rattle us. Don't let him. Claire wanted to believe him, but something felt wrong. Prove it's you. Tell me something only you would know. A long pause. You have a scar on your left shoulder from falling off a bike when you were 9. You told me about it Sunday morning. Said you'd been racing your neighbor and refused to admit you lost. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly. That was right. She had told him that. Okay, when are you coming back? Soon. Few more hours. Stay safe. She set the phone down and tried to calm her racing heart. The monitors showed nothing but trees and the occasional bird. Torres appeared on one screen doing a perimeter check. Everything looked normal, but her instincts wouldn't settle. At 4:30, the emergency phone rang. Claire grabbed it. Hello? Ms. Bennett, this is Marcus Webb. I need you to listen very carefully. Where's Ethan? That's complicated. The meeting with Vincent went sideways. There was a confrontation. Shots were fired. The world tilted. Is he hurt? He's alive. But the situation is active. I need you to stay exactly where you are. Do not come out. Do not respond to anyone claiming to be Ethan until I give you the all clear. Do you understand? But he texted me. When? 20 minutes ago. He said he was fine. Marcus swore. That wasn't him. They must have his phone. Miss Bennett, whatever that text said, ignore it. If you get any more communication claiming to be from Ethan, do not believe it and do not respond. Her hands went numb. What's happening? Vincent took Ethan. We're working on getting him back, but right now you are the priority. If they find you, we lose all leverage. Stay in that room. I'm sending additional security to your location. They'll be there in 90 minutes. 90 minutes? It's the best I can do. Torres and Jensen are solid. They'll hold until backup arrives. But Claire, his voice softened slightly. Do not open that door for anyone. Not even if they sound like Ethan. Not even if they show you video. Wait for my voice and my confirmation code. The code is Nightingale. Nothing else. Got it? Nightingale, she repeated. Good. Sit tight. We're bringing him home. The line went dead. Claire sank into the chair, her mind reeling. Ethan had been taken. The texts had been fake. Vincent had his phone, which meant a crash from somewhere in the house. She jerked upright, eyes flying to the monitors. The front door hung open. 3 figures in dark clothes moved through the main room with tactical precision. On another screen, Torres was on the ground, not moving. Claire's breath came in short gasps. Where was Jensen? She found him on the monitor showing the back of the house, pinned down behind a car, exchanging fire with at least 2 more intruders. They'd found her, and they'd brought an army. Claire's hands shook as she cycled through the cameras. 6 intruders that she could count, maybe more outside the camera range. One of them was speaking into a radio. She couldn't hear through the monitors, but she could read the body language. They were coordinating, searching. They'd work their way to the panic room eventually. The door was reinforced, but she had no illusions it would hold forever. Her phone buzzed again. Claire, it's me. I got away. Let me in. Her heart lurched, but Marcus's words echoed in her head. How do I know it's you? Because I love you, and I'm not letting them use you to control me. Now open the door before they find me out here. 3 little words that should have melted her. Instead, they felt like manipulation. Ethan had never said he loved her. Not out loud, not in text. What's the confirmation code? No response. Then, what code? Claire, there's no time for games. They're right behind me. She didn't answer. On the monitors, the intruders were getting closer. 2 had reached the hallway outside the library where the panic room entrance was hidden. Any second now, they'd find it. Claire looked at the emergency phone. Marcus had said 90 minutes. It had been maybe 20. She was on her own. Think. The panic room had supplies, communications, but no weapons beyond a fire extinguisher and whatever she could improvise. On the screen, one of the intruders pressed on the bookshelf. It didn't move, locked from the inside, but now they knew where the entrance was. They'd breach it. It was only a question of when. Her phone buzzed incessantly. Claire, please, I need you to trust me. Open the door. She turned the phone face down and focused on the monitors. Jensen was still holding the back position, but he was outnumbered. 1 man down, 6 or more active hostiles, and her trapped in a box. The bookshelf shuddered as something heavy hit it from the outside. They were coming through. Claire grabbed the emergency phone and dialed the number Torres had shown her. Emergency response. Authentication required. This is Claire Bennett. Safe House Sierra 7 is compromised. Multiple hostiles, 1 guard down, requesting immediate assistance. Authentication code? Her mind went blank. Torres had told her. What had he said? Ma'am, I need the authentication code. He told me, but I can't. Another impact on the bookshelf. She could see through the monitor as they brought up some kind of portable RAM. Please, she said, they're breaking in. I need help. Without authentication, I cannot. The emergency phone had a keypad. Numbers labeled with letters like an old phone. Torres had said to call this number. The number itself was the code. She rattled off the 10 digits. A pause. Confirmed. Air support is 22 minutes out. Ground team 45. Can you hold? 22 minutes might as well be forever. I'll try. She hung up. The bookshelf gave way with a screech of metal. On the monitor, she watched the intruders pour into the library. They found the panic room door immediately. One of them pulled out a phone and made a call. 30 seconds later, he nodded and turned to the others. They set up some kind of device against the door, small, boxy, with wires. Explosive. Claire's training as an executive assistant had not prepared her for this. She looked around the panic room desperately. The ventilation shaft was too small. The door was about to be blown. There was no way out. Her phone rang. Actual call this time, not text. She answered without thinking. What? Claire. Ethan's voice, rough and strained. Are you in the panic room? How do I know this is really you? Because I'm watching them set up the breach charge through a camera feed Vincent is showing me. Because he's got a gun to my head, and the deal is that if you come out peacefully, he lets me live. If you don't, he kills me and takes you anyway. Her blood turned to ice. Ethan, don't do it. Whatever happens, don't open that door. But I mean it, Claire. You open that door. Everything I've done to protect you means nothing. You stay in there. Help is coming. Not fast enough. Then you make them work for it. You fight. You survive. And when this is over, you live your life and you don't look back. Tears burned her eyes. I'm not leaving you. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Her voice broke. You taught me that. Claire. Another voice in the background, cold and amused. Touching, but time's up. Tell her to open the door, or I pull the trigger. Don't do it, Ethan said, louder now. Claire, I swear to... A gunshot. Claire screamed. He's alive, Vincent's voice said. Shoulder, painful but not fatal. The next one will be. You have 60 seconds to open that door. Her hands were shaking so hard she could barely hold the phone. 50 seconds. On the monitor, the men outside the panic room were finishing with the explosive. 40 seconds. She looked at the door, at the monitors, at the phone in her hand. 30 seconds. Ethan had told her to fight, to survive. But what was the point of surviving if it meant letting him die? 20 seconds. She stood up. 10. Her hand reached for the door lock. Claire, no! Ethan's voice, desperate and furious. Don't you dare! She pulled her hand back. Instead, she grabbed the fire extinguisher and positioned herself to the side of the door. If they were blowing it anyway, she might as well be ready. Time's up, Vincent said. Then pull the trigger, Claire said into the phone, her voice steadier than she felt. Because I'm not coming out. Silence. Then Vincent laughed. Well, Ethan, it seems your assistant has more spine than expected. Unfortunate for you. Don't, Ethan started. Another gunshot. The line went dead. Claire's world collapsed. On the monitor, one of the intruders gestured. They all backed away from the door. She had maybe 3 seconds before the explosive went off. Claire dropped to the floor behind the desk, covered her head, and prayed. The blast was deafening. The door held, mostly. It buckled inward, hanging at an angle, smoke pouring through the gap. Through the ringing in her ears, she heard shouting. They were coming in. Claire grabbed the fire extinguisher and waited. The first man through the gap caught a face full of foam and staggered back, cursing. The second one she swung at with everything she had. The extinguisher connected with his knee, and he went down hard. Then someone grabbed her from behind, yanking her backward. She fought, kicked, screamed, connected with something soft and heard a grunt of pain, but there were too many of them. Hands pinned her arms. Someone zip-tied her wrists. A hood went over her head. Got her, someone said. Let's move. She was hauled out of the panic room, through the house, into cold air that tasted like smoke and pine. A car door opened. She was shoved inside. The engine roared to life. Claire tried to track the turns, the time, anything that might help. But fear and adrenaline were making it impossible to focus. After what might have been 20 minutes or an hour, the car stopped. She was pulled out, marched across gravel, through a door. The zip tie was cut, the hood removed. She blinked against sudden light. They were in some kind of warehouse. Concrete floors, high ceilings, the smell of oil and rust. And there, slumped against a support beam with blood soaking his shirt, was Ethan. Claire's knees nearly gave out. His eyes found hers across the space. Relief and fury warred in his expression. You stupid, stubborn... He broke off, coughing. Vincent stepped between them, smiling. Reunited, how touching. Claire ignored him, her eyes locked on Ethan. How bad? I'll live. His voice was tight with pain. If you'd stayed in that room like I told you, they were going to kill you anyway. Maybe. But you'd be safe. Safe and alone. She met his gaze. I'd rather be here. Something in his expression cracked. You're an idiot. So are you. Vincent cleared his throat. As heartwarming as this is, we have business to discuss. Claire finally looked at him. Up close, he was older than she'd thought. Weathered. The kind of man who'd survived by being meaner than everyone else. What do you want? She asked. From you? Nothing. You're just insurance. He turned to Ethan. But from you, I want what we agreed on. The Brooklyn route stays open. You stop interfering with my operations. And you remember your place in the food chain. Ethan's jaw was tight. And if I refuse, then I kill her right here, right now. And you get to live with that. You kill her, you lose your leverage. I'll burn your entire operation to the ground. Maybe, but she'll still be dead. Vincent pulled out a gun, casual as checking his watch. So what's it going to be? Your pride or her life? Claire's heart was hammering. Don't. Don't give him what he wants because of me. Claire, I mean it. You've worked too hard to let him. I don't care. Ethan's voice was raw. I don't care about the business or the territory or any of it, not compared to you. Vincent smiled. Smart man. So we have a deal? Ethan looked at Claire and she saw everything in that look. The fear, the love, the impossible choice. Yes, he said. We have a deal. Good. Vincent lowered the gun. See? That wasn't so hard. Behind him, the warehouse door exploded inward. The explosion threw everyone to the ground. Claire hit concrete hard, her ears ringing, dust and debris raining down around her. Through the chaos, she heard shouting, commands barked in clipped tones that cut through the confusion. Someone grabbed her arm. She jerked away instinctively, then recognized Marcus's face through the smoke. Stay down, he ordered, already moving past her toward Ethan. The warehouse had become a war zone. Vincent's men scrambled for cover as figures in tactical gear poured through the breached entrance. Gunfire erupted, sharp cracks that made Claire's whole body flinch. She crawled toward Ethan, keeping low. He was trying to push himself upright against the support beam, his face pale and streaked with blood. Don't move, she said, reaching him. You're hurt. I'm fine. You're bleeding everywhere. Flesh wound. He grabbed her hand with his good arm, his grip tight. Are you hurt? No, Ethan. More gunfire, closer this time. Marcus appeared beside them, already working to cut the restraints binding Ethan to the beam. We need to move, now. Vincent is pinned down on the east side. My team's got him contained. Marcus got Ethan free and hauled him to his feet. Can you walk? I can run if I have to. Good, because we're leaving through the loading dock, 30 seconds. He half-carried Ethan toward the back of the warehouse. Claire followed, her heart in her throat, flinching at every gunshot. They burst through a side door into bitter cold air. 2 SUVs were waiting, engines running. Marcus shoved Ethan into the first one. Claire climbed in after him. The vehicle was moving before the door even closed. Claire immediately pressed her hands against Ethan's shoulder, trying to slow the bleeding. The bullet had gone straight through, in one side, out the other, but the wound was still pumping blood with each heartbeat. You need a hospital, she said. Can't. Too many questions. His voice was strained. There's a doctor. Marcus knows. In the front seat, Marcus was already on the phone. Yeah, we've got him. GSW to the shoulder, through and through. How fast can you be ready? Good. 20 minutes. The drive was a blur of back roads and industrial areas. Claire kept pressure on Ethan's wound, her hands slick with blood, while he gritted his teeth and tried not to show how much pain he was in. You should have stayed in the panic room, he said. We've been over this. You could have been killed. So could you. But we're both still here. His eyes found hers, dark and intense. You're impossible. I learned from the best. Despite everything, he almost smiled. The SUV pulled into what looked like a private medical facility, small, discreet, the kind of place that didn't ask questions or file police reports. Marcus had Ethan inside within seconds. A woman in scrubs met them at the door, already prepped. Exam room 2, let's go. Claire tried to follow, but Marcus caught her arm. Let her work. You need to let the doctor do her job. He'll be fine. She wanted to argue, but Marcus's expression was firm, and she was suddenly exhausted beyond measure. She sank into a chair in the waiting area, her hand still stained with Ethan's blood. Marcus sat down beside her. You did good back there. I got him shot. No, Vincent got him shot. You kept your head and survived. That's not nothing. Claire looked at her trembling hands. What happens now? Now we clean up the mess. Vincent's not dead, but he's in custody. My custody, not the police. We'll handle him. Handle him how? Marcus met her eyes. Do you really want to know? She thought about it. About Vincent's cold smile and the casual way he'd pointed a gun at her. About Ethan bleeding against that support beam because he'd refused to let her die. No, she said quietly. I don't. Smart. They sat in silence for a while. Claire's adrenaline was crashing, leaving her shaky and numb. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Why did you come for us? You could have let Vincent take Ethan. Would have solved a lot of problems for everyone. Marcus looked at her like she'd said something incomprehensible. He's my boss. More than that, he's my friend. And you, he paused, you're important to him. That makes you worth protecting. Even though I'm just some assistant who got in over her head, you're not just anything. You're the woman who refused to leave that panic room even when they threatened to kill him. Most people would have folded. He stood up. You've got steel in you, Ms. Bennett. Ethan saw it. Now everyone else will too. He walked away before she could respond. 45 minutes later, the doctor emerged. He's stable. Lost some blood, but the wound is clean. I've stitched him up and started him on antibiotics. He'll need to rest for a few days, but he should make a full recovery. Relief made Claire's knees weak. Can I see him? He's asking for you. Ethan was propped up in a hospital bed, his shoulder bandaged and his arm in a sling. He looked exhausted, but alert. Claire crossed to him immediately. You're okay. Takes more than a bullet to stop me. His good hand reached for hers. Are you all right? You're the one who got shot. That's not what I asked. She sank into the chair beside the bed. I'm processing. That's fair. For a moment, they just looked at each other. I thought he killed you, Claire said finally, when I heard that second shot. He aimed for my shoulder. Wanted me alive to make the deal. Ethan's jaw tightened. I'm sorry you had to go through that. I'm sorry you got shot because of me. Not because of you, because of Vincent. There's a difference. Is there? He took you because you cared about me. And I'd do it again. His grip on her hand tightened. Claire, I need you to understand something. This life, my world, it's dangerous. People like Vincent exist. They'll always exist. And as long as you're with me, you'll be a target sometimes. Her heart sank. Are you saying? I'm saying you deserve to make an informed choice. You've seen the worst of this now. The violence, the fear, the reality of what it means to be involved with someone like me. He met her eyes. If you want to walk away, I'll understand. I'll make sure you're protected, set up somewhere safe. You can go back to a normal life. Claire stared at him. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. Like hell it is. She leaned forward. Answer the question, Ethan. Do you want me to leave? His expression cracked. No, I want you to stay so badly it terrifies me. Then stop giving me an out. Her voice shook. I'm not stupid. I know what I'm signing up for, and I'm choosing it anyway. I'm choosing you. Why? Because when you're not around, everything feels dimmer. Because you make me braver than I thought I could be. Because loving you is the scariest and most real thing I've ever done. She brushed her fingers across his cheek. And because you're worth it. Ethan pulled her closer with his good arm, pressing his forehead to hers. I love you. I should have said it before. I love you, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. You already do. He kissed her then, gentle and fierce all at once. When they broke apart, both of them were crying. What happens now? Claire asked. Now I restructure everything. The business, the operations, all of it. Vincent was right about one thing. I've been trying to have it both ways, clean and dirty, legitimate and criminal. It doesn't work. He took a breath. So I'm choosing clean. It'll take time. Some people won't like it, but I'm done living in the gray. That's going to be dangerous. Everything worth doing is. Then I'm with you, whatever it takes. His eyes searched hers. You're sure? Completely. A knock interrupted them. Marcus poked his head in. Sorry to interrupt, but there's someone here to see you. Lucia Moretti swept into the room like a storm, her expression a mixture of fury and relief. Isabella followed close behind. You got shot, Lucia said without preamble. Hi, Mama. Good to see you too. Don't you joke with me. She crossed to the bed, her eyes scanning him critically. The doctor says you'll live. Good. Because I'm going to kill you myself for being so reckless. It wasn't exactly planned. It never is with you. Lucia's gaze shifted to Claire. And you? You stayed with him even when they threatened you. Claire straightened. Yes. Stupid girl. Mama, Ethan started. Stupid and brave. Lucia's expression softened fractionally. Welcome to the family. You'll fit right in. Isabella hugged Claire before she could respond. I told you he'd protect you. I didn't mention the part where you'd have to protect him too. She shouldn't have had to, Ethan said. But she did. That's what family does. Isabella pulled back, smiling. You're stuck with us now. Hope you're ready. The next few weeks were a lesson in controlled chaos. Ethan recovered slowly, frustrated by his limitations, but determined not to show weakness. Claire stayed close, working remotely when she could, and ignoring the raised eyebrows from colleagues who wondered why she'd taken sudden leave. Marcus coordinated the aftermath. Vincent had been handed over to certain authorities, not the police, but people who operated in jurisdictions that didn't officially exist. Claire didn't ask for details. She'd learned that some knowledge was better left alone. 2 of Vincent's lieutenants tried to retaliate. One disappeared after a brief conversation with Marcus. The other took the hint and left the state entirely. The message was clear. The Moretti family was done playing defense. But Ethan was serious about going legitimate. He started dismantling operations methodically, meeting with lawyers and accountants who specialized in exactly this kind of transition. Shell companies were dissolved. Offshore accounts were closed or transferred into proper channels. Relationships with questionable associates were quietly severed. It was brutal work. Some people understood. Others didn't. 3 weeks after the warehouse, one of Ethan's oldest associates, a man named Carmine who'd worked with his father, showed up unannounced at the brownstone. Claire answered the door. Carmine was in his 60s, well-dressed, with the kind of face that had seen too much. I need to speak with Ethan, he said. He's not taking visitors. He'll take me. Something in his tone made her hesitate. She stepped aside. Ethan appeared in the hallway, his arm still in a sling. Carmine, we need to talk. They went into Ethan's study. Claire waited in the living room, trying not to listen, but unable to help herself. Voices rose. Not quite shouting, but close. You're destroying everything your father built, Carmine said. My father built a house of cards. I'm building something that lasts. By turning your back on the people who kept you safe, who bled for this family. I'm not turning my back. I'm offering everyone a chance to transition with me. Legitimate work. Real salaries. A future that doesn't end in prison or a grave. And the ones who don't want that future? Then they find it somewhere else. I'm not forcing anyone to stay. You're forcing them out. I'm choosing a different path. That's my right. A long silence. Your father would be ashamed, Carmine said finally. My father's dead, and his way of doing things is what got him killed. Ethan's voice was hard. I'm not making the same mistakes. You're making different ones. Maybe, but they're mine to make. The door opened. Carmine walked out without looking at Claire. Ethan stood in the doorway of his study, his face tight with frustration. Claire crossed to him. You okay? That's the 3rd one this week. They all say the same thing. That I'm betraying the family, that I've gone soft. Have you? I don't know. Is it soft to want a life where I don't have to look over my shoulder? Where I can build something without wondering when it's all going to come crashing down? That's not soft. That's smart. He pulled her close with his good arm. I hope you're right. I am, and even if I'm not, I'm still here. I know, that's the only thing keeping me sane. By the end of the month, the transformation was well underway. The Moretti Group had shed its criminal operations like a snake shedding skin. What remained was a legitimate investment firm with real clients and actual oversight. Some people left. Uncle Sal took early retirement to Florida. Tony started his own logistics company, completely legal, he assured them, though Claire had her doubts. A few others simply disappeared, finding work with organizations that hadn't made Ethan's choice. But others stayed. Marcus became head of security for the legitimate business. Isabella expanded her gallery with Moretti Group backing. Even Lucia seemed cautiously optimistic about the new direction. The financial hit was significant. Legitimate business didn't have the same profit margins as criminal enterprise. But Ethan had been preparing for this, building up reserves and diversifying investments. We'll be fine, he told Claire one night, reviewing spreadsheets. It'll be tight for a while, but we'll make it work. And if we don't? Then we start over, but at least we'll do it with our integrity intact. She watched him work. This man who'd chosen the harder path because it was the right one, who'd walked away from easy money and inherited power to build something honest. I'm proud of you, she said. He looked up, surprised. Why? Because this isn't easy. Because you're doing it anyway. Because you're choosing to be better even when it costs you everything. Not everything. He reached for her hand. I still have you. Always. 3 months after the warehouse, Ethan was officially cleared by the doctor. His shoulder had healed well, though it ached in cold weather and he'd lost some range of motion. A permanent reminder of the life he'd left behind. He threw himself into work with renewed energy. The Moretti Group was gaining traction as a legitimate player. They'd landed 2 major investment clients and were in talks with a third. Trade publications were starting to take notice. Claire watched it all with a mixture of pride and relief. This was what she'd hoped for. Ethan building something he could be proud of. Something that didn't require looking over his shoulder. But she also knew the cost. The late nights. The constant stress. The weight of proving himself in a world that remembered who he used to be. One evening, she found him on the balcony of the brownstone, staring out at the city. You're thinking too loud, she said, joining him. Just wondering if I made the right call. You did. How can you be sure? Because you can sleep at night now, because you're not afraid of who might come through that door, because you're becoming the person you always wanted to be. He was quiet for a moment. What if that person isn't enough? Enough for what? For you, for this life we're trying to build. What if I gave up everything that made me powerful and end up being just ordinary? Claire turned to face him. Ethan, you were never ordinary. The power, the empire, the reputation, that was all window dressing. The man underneath is what matters. And that man is brilliant and stubborn and brave enough to walk away from everything he knew to build something better. You make it sound noble. Most days it just feels hard. It is hard. That's what makes it count. She took his hand. You're not less without the criminal empire. You're more. Because now you're building something real. He pulled her close. I don't know what I did to deserve you. You chose to be better. That's all it takes. They stood there as the sun set over Brooklyn, holding each other against the uncertainties of the future. A week later, Lucia called a family dinner. Everyone gathered at the Long Island house. Ethan and Claire, Isabella, and her new boyfriend Marcus, even Uncle Sal, who'd flown up from Florida for the occasion. Halfway through the meal, Lucia tapped her glass. I have an announcement, she said. As of today, I'm officially retiring from the business. The table went silent. Mama, Ethan started. Don't interrupt. I'm 73 years old. I've earned the right to spend my days doing something other than managing ledgers and threatening people. She looked at Ethan. You've done good work. Better than your father would have. Better than I expected. The business is clean now. Legitimate. Time for me to step back and let you run it without an old woman looking over your shoulder. Ethan's throat worked. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank the girl who made you want to be better. Lucia raised her glass. To Claire. For seeing what we all saw but never thought anyone outside the family would. Everyone drank. Claire felt tears prick her eyes. Isabella squeezed her hand under the table. After dinner, as people filtered into the living room, Ethan pulled Claire into the garden. What is it? She asked. He took a breath. I have something to ask you. Okay. When I met you, I was playing a role, pretending to be someone respectable while keeping all the dark parts hidden. You saw through it, not just the pretense, but the person underneath. He took her hands. You saw the worst of me and didn't run. You stood beside me when it would have been smarter to walk away. You made me want to be the man you believed I could be. Ethan, let me finish. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be. I've done things I'm not proud of, made choices I can't take back. But with you, I'm better. And I want to spend the rest of my life trying to deserve the faith you have in me. He opened the box. A simple diamond ring caught the light. Marry me, Claire. Not because it's logical or safe or easy, but because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Because you make everything brighter and scarier and more real. Because loving you is the best decision I've ever made. Claire was crying openly now. Yes. Yes? Yes, you impossible man. Of course, yes. He slipped the ring on her finger with shaking hands, then kissed her like they were the only 2 people in the world. When they broke apart, the family was watching from the windows, not even pretending to be subtle. Isabella was cheering. Lucia was dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. They're going to be insufferable about this, Claire said. Completely. Ethan pulled her close. Still want to marry into this family? More than anything. The engagement period was a whirlwind. Isabella took charge of planning, which meant everything was both beautiful and slightly chaotic. Lucia had opinions about everything from flowers to the guest list. Marcus quietly handled security, making sure the wedding wouldn't attract unwanted attention. Claire found herself caught between two worlds: the legitimate business world where she and Ethan were building their future, and the shadow world of his past that occasionally surfaced in unexpected ways. 2 weeks before the wedding, an envelope arrived at their apartment. No return address. Inside was a single photograph. Ethan at a meeting years ago, surrounded by people Claire recognized from news reports about organized crime, and a note. "Congratulations on the wedding. Hope the press doesn't find out about the groom's interesting history." Claire showed it to Ethan that evening. His expression went dark. Someone's trying to leverage the past. What do we do? We call their bluff. He pulled out his phone. Marcus, I need you to find out who sent this, and then we're going to have a conversation about boundaries. Within 24 hours, Marcus had traced the envelope to a former associate trying to extort money. Ethan met with the man personally, along with a lawyer and a very detailed file of the man's own criminal history. The message was clear: expose Ethan's past and your own comes to light, along with evidence that would interest federal prosecutors. The man took the hint. The photographs disappeared. Is it always going to be like this? Claire asked. People trying to use your past against you? Maybe. For a while. But it'll get better. The further we get from that life, the less leverage they have. And if it doesn't get better, then we deal with it, together, like we deal with everything. She believed him, because they'd already survived worse. They were married on a Saturday in May, in a small ceremony at the Brooklyn Brownstone. Claire wore a simple ivory dress that Isabella had helped her pick out. Ethan wore a perfectly tailored suit and couldn't stop smiling. Marcus was best man, looking uncomfortable but pleased. Isabella was maid of honor, crying before the ceremony even started. Lucia sat in the front row, dabbing her eyes and pretending she wasn't emotional. The ceremony itself was simple. No elaborate readings or performances, just two people standing in front of their family, promising to choose each other every day. When the officiant asked Ethan for his vows, he took Claire's hands. "I'm not good with words," he started. "I'm better with spreadsheets and strategy. But Claire, you've taught me that the best things in life can't be calculated or planned. You've shown me what it means to be brave, to take risks, to believe that people can change if they're willing to do the work." His voice caught slightly. "I promise to keep choosing to be better, to build a life with you that's honest and real, to protect you, not by hiding you away, but by standing beside you, to love you even when, especially when, it's complicated and messy and hard, because that's what real love is, showing up every day and choosing each other no matter what." Claire was crying before he finished. When it was her turn, she took a breath. "Ethan, you once told me that you were good at keeping what was yours, and I told you I wasn't yours." She smiled through her tears. "I was wrong, not because you own me, but because I choose to belong with you. You've shown me what courage looks like, what it means to walk away from power to build something honest, what it costs to be better than your past." She squeezed his hands. "I promise to stand beside you through everything, the good days and the hard ones, the moments when being legitimate feels impossible, and the moments when it feels worth it. I promise to believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself, to remind you of who you are when the world tries to tell you who you used to be, and to love you, all of you, past and present and future, for the rest of my life." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. When the officiant pronounced them married, Ethan kissed her like he'd been waiting his whole life for this moment. Maybe he had been. The reception spilled into the garden, full of laughter and music, and the kind of chaotic joy that came from family. They ate Lucia's cooking. She'd insisted on making half the food herself. They danced badly to music Isabella had curated. They toasted with champagne and told stories and celebrated not just a wedding, but a new beginning. As the sun set and fairy lights turned the garden into something magical, Uncle Sal pulled Ethan aside. "Your father would have hated this," he said. Ethan stiffened. "I know. Good. Because he was wrong about a lot of things. Power, control. What makes a man strong? Sal smiled. You figured that out. That makes you smarter than he ever was. I don't know about smart. Most days I feel like I'm barely holding it together. That's life, kid. Nobody has it all figured out. But you've got something your father never had. What's that? Someone who makes you want to be better, and the guts to actually try. He clapped Ethan on the shoulder. That's worth more than any empire. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Claire found Ethan standing by the garden fence, looking thoughtful. What are you thinking? She asked. That I'm the luckiest man alive. Funny. I was thinking the same thing about myself. He pulled her close. We're really doing this, building a life together, a real one. Scared? Terrified. Good. Me too. She rested her head on his shoulder. But we're doing it anyway. They stood there as the party continued behind them, music and laughter drifting through the warm evening air. This was their life now. Not perfect, not without challenges, but honest and real and theirs. The following year proved that honesty and reality came with their own complications. The Moretti Group continued to grow, but competition was fierce. Legitimate investors asked hard questions about Ethan's past. Some walked away. Others stayed, convinced by the evidence of real change. Claire officially quit working as anyone's assistant and started consulting for other businesses navigating difficult transitions. Turned out her experience managing chaos and facilitating change was valuable. She was good at it. They bought a small house on Long Island, close enough to Lucia for regular Sunday dinners, but far enough for privacy. The house needed work. The kitchen was dated, the roof leaked, the garden was overgrown. They tackled it together, arguing about paint colors and furniture placement, making decisions like a normal couple dealing with normal problems. It was the best year of Claire's life, but it wasn't without its shadows. One afternoon in October, 15 months after the wedding, Claire was working from home when the doorbell rang. She opened it to find a young woman, early 20s, looking nervous. Can I help you? I'm looking for Ethan Moretti. Is he here? He's at the office. Can I give him a message? The woman hesitated. My name is Angela. My father, he used to work for Mr. Moretti. He died 6 months ago, and I'm trying to settle his affairs. I was hoping Mr. Moretti might be able to help with some questions. Something in Claire's chest tightened. What kind of questions? About the business? The old business, before everything changed. Angela looked down. My father left some things. Documents. I don't know what to do with them. Claire invited her in, got her contact information, and promised Ethan would call. When Ethan got home that evening, she told him about the visitor. His expression went carefully blank. What was her father's name? She didn't say, but she implied he died because of the old operations. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed. I'll meet with her. See what she needs. You don't have to. Yes, I do. Those people worked for my family. For me. I don't get to pretend they didn't exist just because I've moved on. He met with Angela 2 days later. When he came home, he looked exhausted. Her father was killed in a deal that went wrong, he told Claire, before I started shutting things down. She's struggling financially, college loans, medical bills from his final illness. What are you going to do? I'm going to help her, set up a fund, make sure she can finish school. He rubbed his face. It's the least I can do. It's more than you have to do. No, it's exactly what I have to do. These are the consequences of the life I led. I don't get to walk away from them just because I've gone legitimate. Over the following months, Ethan quietly reached out to other families of people who'd worked for him. He set up scholarships, paid medical bills, helped with job placements. It wasn't penance, exactly. More like acknowledgement. The past had consequences, and he was choosing to take responsibility for them. Claire watched him do this work and fell in love with him all over again. 2 years after the wedding, Claire found out she was pregnant. She told Ethan on a Tuesday evening, standing in their kitchen while he made dinner. She'd planned something elaborate, but when the moment came, she just blurted it out. I'm pregnant. He dropped the spatula. For a full 10 seconds, he just stared at her. Then he crossed the kitchen in 3 strides and pulled her into his arms. You're sure? 3 tests, all positive. We're having a baby. We're having a baby. He laughed, the sound rough and overwhelmed. Then he started crying. Then he kissed her. Then he pulled back, suddenly panicked. I don't know how to be a father. What if I'm terrible at it? What if I mess them up? What if they grow up and find out what I used to be? Breathe, Claire said, one crisis at a time. This isn't a crisis. This is... He broke off, overwhelmed. Terrifying and wonderful? Yes. Then we're on the same page. She took his hand and placed it on her still flat stomach. We're going to figure this out, together, like everything else. He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The pregnancy was harder than Claire expected. Morning sickness that lasted all day. Exhaustion that made work nearly impossible. Emotions that swung wildly from joy to terror and back again. Ethan was a mess of anxiety and overprotectiveness. He read every pregnancy book he could find, baby-proofed the house before they even knew the gender, drove Claire crazy with his hovering. I'm pregnant, not dying, she told him after he insisted on carrying groceries that weighed maybe 10 pounds. I know, but let me do this. Let me take care of you. She did. Because underneath the overprotectiveness was fear. Fear that something would go wrong, that happiness this profound couldn't last, that he'd lose her, or the baby, or both. We're going to be okay, she told him one night, lying in bed with his hand on her growing belly. You can't know that. No, but I believe it anyway, and I need you to believe it too. He tried. It didn't come naturally to a man who'd spent most of his life preparing for the worst, but he tried. Their daughter was born on a Tuesday in April after 14 hours of labor that left both of them exhausted. The first time Ethan held her, his hands were shaking. She's so small, he whispered. She's perfect, Claire said. What if I drop her? You won't. What if I don't know what she needs? Then you'll figure it out, like everything else. They named her Sophia, after Ethan's grandmother. Lucia cried when they told her. Isabella brought enough baby clothes to outfit triplets. Marcus showed up with a ridiculously elaborate security system for the nursery. Their family had grown, and with it, their future. The first year of Sophia's life was chaos. Sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, the strange vertigo of being responsible for a tiny human who depended on them for everything. Ethan was terrified and tender in equal measure. He learned to change diapers and warm bottles and rock Sophia to sleep at 3 a.m. He read her stories before she could possibly understand them. He sang off-key lullabies and made silly faces that made her laugh. Claire watched him transform from a man who'd built empires on fear to a father who cried the first time his daughter smiled at him. You're a natural, she told him one evening, finding him asleep in the nursery chair with Sophia on his chest. He woke with a start. I didn't mean to fall asleep. It's fine. You looked peaceful. I was dreaming about her first day of school, how I'm going to intimidate anyone who's mean to her. Claire laughed. She's 3 months old. I like to plan ahead. You're going to be one of those overprotective dads, aren't you? Absolutely. I've got Marcus running background checks on the other babies at daycare. You're joking. He wasn't joking, but underneath the overprotectiveness was something beautiful. Ethan had found something worth protecting that wasn't built on violence or fear. He'd found a life worth living on its own terms. The Moretti Group continued to thrive. 5 years after going legitimate, they were handling major accounts and earning recognition as one of the city's most successful investment firms. Trade publications wrote articles about their turnaround. Business schools studied their transition as a case study in corporate restructuring. Ethan gave talks at conferences about ethical business practices. It was surreal watching him stand on stages, discussing integrity and transparency, knowing where he'd come from. But he never lied about his past. When asked directly, he acknowledged it. I made choices I'm not proud of, he'd say. I hurt people. I broke laws. I justified it because it was what I knew. But knowing better means doing better, and I'm trying to do better every day. Some people respected that honesty. Others didn't. Claire didn't care. She knew the truth, knew the man he'd become and the work it took to get there. On Sophia's 5th birthday, they threw a party in the backyard of their Long Island house. Kids ran wild through the garden. Parents made small talk. Lucia supervised the food with an iron fist. Claire stood on the porch, watching Sophia blow out candles on a cake shaped like a castle, and felt overwhelmed by the improbability of this life. Ethan joined her, sliding an arm around her waist. What are you thinking? He asked. That 5 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this, any of this. Regret? Not even a little bit. She leaned into him. You? I regret the path that got me here, the people I hurt, the choices I can't take back. He watched Sophia laugh at something Isabella said. But I don't regret where I ended up, this family, this life, you. We did good, didn't we? We did better than good. We did impossible. That evening, after the party ended and Sophia was asleep, Claire found Ethan in his study, looking at an old photograph. His father, young and stern, standing in front of the original Moretti Group office. Do you miss him? She asked. Sometimes. Not who he was, but who he could have been, if he'd made different choices. Do you think he'd be proud of you? Ethan was quiet for a long moment. No, he'd hate what I've become. The legitimate business, the clean operations, all of it. Good. He looked at her, surprised. You're not him, Claire said. You never were. And that's what makes you extraordinary. You chose to be different, to be better. That takes more courage than following in his footsteps ever would have. You really believe that? Eve, I know that. She crossed to him, taking the photograph and setting it down. He's your past, but we're your present, and Sophia is your future. That's what matters. Ethan pulled her close. I love you. You know that, right? I know. I don't say it enough. You show it every day. That's better. They stood there in the quiet study, holding each other, while their daughter slept upstairs and their future stretched out ahead of them. It wasn't the life either of them had planned. It was better, because it was real, built on choices they'd made together, on second chances and hard work, and the belief that people could change if they wanted it badly enough. Years later, when Sophia was old enough to ask questions, Claire told her a simplified version of how she and Ethan had met. Daddy was my boss, she said, and I thought I knew exactly who he was. But then I realized people are more complicated than they seem. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is give someone a chance to be better than their past. Sophia thought about this. Did Daddy do bad things? Claire glanced at Ethan, who was listening from the doorway. Yes, she said honestly. He made mistakes, big ones. But then he chose to do better. And that choice, that's what defines him. Not who he was, but who he decided to become. That's a good story, Sophia said. Yeah, Claire agreed. It really is. That evening, after Sophia was asleep, Ethan found Claire on the back porch. Thank you, he said. For what? For not sugarcoating it, for telling her the truth. She deserves the truth. A version of it, anyway. The full story can wait until she's older. What if she judges me for it? Then we'll deal with it. But I don't think she will, because by the time she's old enough to understand, she'll have seen who you are. And that person is worth believing in. Ethan sat beside her, pulling her close. I still can't believe this is my life. That I get to have this, you, Sophia, a future that doesn't involve looking over my shoulder. Believe it, because it's real, and it's ours. They sat there as the sun set over their garden, their daughter sleeping safely inside, their future unfolding one ordinary day at a time. It was messy and complicated and absolutely real, and neither of them would change a single moment. Because that was the truth about love, Claire had learned. It wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone willing to do the work, to choose to be better, to build something honest out of broken pieces. Ethan had taught her that courage meant walking away from power to build something real. That strength was admitting when you were wrong and choosing to do better. That the most dangerous love wasn't the one that burned hottest, but the one that lasted, through fear and danger and ordinary Tuesday mornings. And she'd taught him that he was worth believing in, that his past didn't define his future, that being loved meant being seen, all of you, the good and the bad, and chosen anyway. Together, they'd built something impossible, a life that shouldn't have worked, but did, a love that should have destroyed them, but made them stronger instead. It wasn't perfect. Some days were hard. The past still surfaced sometimes, in unexpected ways, but they faced it together, like they faced everything. And that made all the difference. Years from now, when people asked about the Moretti Group's transformation from shadowy criminal enterprise to respected business, they'd tell the official story. Strategic restructuring, leadership change, market repositioning. But Claire knew the real story. It was about a man who'd chosen to be better than his father, about a woman who'd chosen to believe in him, about love as an act of courage, not comfort, about second chances and hard choices and the impossible becoming possible. That was the story worth telling, and it was theirs.